So now the focus is on me to keep time. So I've told Paloma, please remind me at 40 minutes so that I know I'm not spilling over. Uh, you know, being the curator, I've had the pleasure of working with each one of them, and I hope I can bring out some hidden facets of their work. I begin the session by in the format that I've said, saying that I'll ask each one of you to say a few words of what your work according to you is, and then I will ask you certain questions, or it can be a discussion and statement on how we work with, the idea of scale. Because being an airport and, being in T2, which is all about floor to ceiling, which goes at 12 meters, which is about 36 feet, it's all about scale. So how do you deal, or how do you create works in scale, which is not such a frequent or a, easy enough opportunity for many to kind of work with? So I'll begin from the end of there. Talur, please go ahead and...
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, this session is called Scale in Public Spaces. So I can also say Vimana in Public Places. The title can be like that. So the Vimana, you can use several ways. It carries a different meaning in different context. So Vimana is just not an aircraft. So actually, Vimana. Mana is a measurement. Vimana is, something beyond to comprehend in the context of scale or in the context of something. So it's called Vimana. Especially like in a villages, olden days, one of the biggest structure is only the village temple. And the Gopuram is the biggest structure. All the houses are very small and tiny. So that's the reason they call maybe the Gopuram is a Vimana. So this is a kind of starting point for me to work in this direction. Otherwise, once I have a concept, after that it's a kind of open-ended for me. So I kind of travel here and there. So it's more like people want to hear something explanations of the work. So only for that works. Otherwise, like, it's quite open-ended work. And each time, different people, when they interpret, that's how I grow with the work. I listen to their interpretations and then try to kind of understand from their perspective and how they think. And that's how the work always alive for me. It's not like one poster or one idea or one thing.
So that's interesting. So basically what you're saying is that your work grows as people interact, and new stories or new layers kind of get added on to it. So that's a very interesting way. Latika ji, I come to you. Just so that you know, Latika ji's work is not yet installed, but it is something that is waiting for installation. It is very much in the airport. She's done a work which is 11-foot marble sculpture. We have an image of it over here. Latika ji, if you could just say, what your inspiration, what your work is all about.
Hi. Yeah. So basically my work before 2 years was horizontal, because I'm inspired by the earth. Whatever happens on the underground level, right from the childhood days, since my father was a botanist, we were sort of related to the earth. The roots and the dried leaves and the rotten leaves, so on. And basically I would catch up all the insects. And I think I was always very violent child. So I would cut them up, and I always had a desire to see what is inside, what is inside a form. So whether it's a human being, and later on I must tell you that I also worked on the dead bodies when I was teaching in Banaras University. I had access to the keys to the medical museum. So I had to really see, as an artist, relation between a muscle and a bone and veins and so on. So I did very intensive study. And since my scale was that, then I was suddenly invited to do a very large work, about 30 feet tall, for the ONGC building, Delhi. It was a great challenge because I was never going vertical. So I was very confused about how to like conceive a vertical shape, because I was always going, very long shapes, 20 feet, 30 feet I had done on the ground. So it was a challenge, structure-wise too. And now this work which you are referring to is the second work after that. Actually, the third work after that. And I made slight differences in the materials. Some were bronze and marble, some were sandstone and marble. So they look different. That's why the white one I called a snowscape because of the stark white. I had been once very, very influenced by the snow, the white snow that I had experienced in Canada and Norway and so on. Apart from the cold, the total landscape completely going white, not a single streak of color. So white marble would work very, very well in that respect. But here I had to relate also to the ground. So I chose the yellow Jaisalmer stone, which was closest to the earth color. And the shapes represent the crevices that you have, and in the memory of all the insect life that I relate to still. I'm still very intrigued by the life of termites. I've been, since 1988, I've been working on termites in a very serious manner, in a sense that I've traveled around to places where they had larger scale termite hills, and I was very intrigued as to what happens inside, the inside story of a termite hill. So I formed a team and we poured POP through all the holes, and the people nearby were saying there's cobra living inside and life is in danger. So I said, okay, so anytime the snake comes out, we all run. So we poured POP, and it was a very fascinating experience as to what we found. We found the large mother queens of that size, about 8 inches. I mean, imagining a tiny ant turning into that large shape. And the whole lifestyle of the inside of the termite hill got like discovered, the positive aspect of the negative shape. So then gradually some trees fell down which were affected by the termites, and the beautiful shapes that go on. And the whole process of growth and decay, which I was already working on, because I had already done work on the dead bodies and how at the Manikarnika Ghat in Varanasi they burn the bodies. So I was very interested in the death part of it. What happens immediately after you die, as one of my friends was discussing ash. I mean, the end product is the ash, and how something else comes out of it, the experience of it. So this is the end result of all those experiences, and I'm personally very much in love with this work because of the color and the shape and the undulating whatever else come out.
Yeah. It's called Earth Formations.
Yes.
That's the title of the work. Thank you very much. Prakriti, moving on to you. The backstory of the work is Prakriti had given a proposal through the open call for a work that measured 3 feet by 5 feet. but it didn't because of, the proposal and the way it, what you see, the multicolored chandelier, that was the original proposal. But it was meant for a vertical space and it just wasn't working. So we've kind of worked through the multiple airport spaces and tried to figure out and hit upon a space that was perfect. But the scale was not right. And that's where the discussion said, I said, okay, Pragati, things have to move, you need to scale up and you need to do something that's different. And she said, okay, I'm fine with it. And she said, what's the space? I gave her the space in meters, which then roughly translated to 24 by 30 feet, not meters. That when we come to Madhvi, we'll have that scale. So the challenge here is, which is kind of going to be my next question, but you take up the first thing. How did you move from thinking about a sculpture, which is, like what Latika ji said, that she was used to working horizontal. You had something that was ground up to move to up and up into expansion of space. That's something interesting.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Yamini, for having us. How did I do it? How did I change it in my head? With great difficulty. It took me 2-3 weeks just to wrap my head around it, because was not just the scale and the size, but the fact that it was going to be ceiling suspended. And I'm a weaver, I'm a textile artist, I'm not an engineer. But I have a wonderful team who helped me align. We dug deep into my Pandora's box of samples that I had created over the years and looked at them and turned them into a medium of woven expression. My medium of expression is copper wire. I weave on the loom with wire, so when it comes off the loom, it takes on a sculptural quality. Though I did deal with it with a lot of difficulty.
No, and also I remember one of the samples that Pragati had come with, okay, this is about talking about scale and big work, was something as big as glass, not even the bottle.
Yeah.
In a bag. So I said, where's your sample? She said, I was like, okay, let's start, at a different place. But my next question is going to be, to do with the material. Interestingly, you may say, why am I going to talk about material? Because when we talk about scale, it's just not about, enlarging your existing material into that size, but it's also rethinking your material and rethinking how you adapt or you take on new challenges, which brings me to Madhvi, because that's what we made her do. Again, the open call, Madhvi had sent in a proposal which was really fascinating, but the restrictions of the space. So here's the challenge of working in a public space, and not just any public space, but working in a space like an airport, where the functional aspects of it supersede anything else. It is ultimately meant to move passengers from point A to B. It is also the layer of security, because we live in a world where everything is, has to be checked and cleared. What is permissible, what is not. So it was not just about creative or aesthetics that sometimes defined what pressures I put on the artist, but it was these functional aspects also that defined the work that would come in. So coming back to Madhvi, so this is the problem, right? Because I know the thing inside out, these stories also come out. But when Madhvi had given in her proposal through the open call, it was something that was so fascinating, and the scale was, on a human interaction. It needed the light in a particular way, which was very controlled. People had to stand at a particular distance to look at it. And it just wasn't working. It wasn't working for the space that we had in mind. So again, think. What do we do? How do we take this forward? Then we come up with another space which is there. So this is in the check-in hall. Okay, so Tallur's work is also in the check-in hall, Madhvi's is in check-in hall, Prakati is in boarding piers, and Latika ji's work is going to be in the open space. That's another story that I'm going to come down to. So in the check-in hall, remember I started off saying that floor to ceiling, it goes up to 36 feet. That's 12 meters approximately that is there. So I got used to, in the art hall you don't talk meters, right? You talk about feet at the, or you're talking in inches, centimeters. But suddenly the scale is all about meters. Madhvi got a wall space which was 6 meters high by 12 meters wide and 2 such spaces. So take it off from there, Madhvi.
Yeah, no, is this working? Yeah. No, first I want to thank Bhargavi and Yamini for giving me this opportunity and pushing me into this challenging position, because I am a ceramic artist, so I'm used to working in relatively smaller scale compared, I mean, the maximum, one would do is like 6 feet, 8 feet in ceramic. So when the first proposal didn't come through, I thought, now they're going to tell me, okay, we don't want you anymore. And I was so sad. I was like, oh my gosh. And then when Yamini did talk about the space, I thought, wow, that is impossible to even think about. And in clay particularly, my head couldn't get to that. But because I have been in the practice of working with material that does make form and structure, and also this unique ability to think inversely. So in ceramic practice, we have to think about the end first and then work backwards. You have to think about visualize what you're looking at, and then you work back to making it. So I did the same thing. I basically used my material insight or instinct that I have developed over the years, but I changed the material to metal, and I treated it in my head like it was a slab of clay. So I was going to use it that way. But the creative process is very meandering. It doesn't come in a straight line. So I had to abandon one idea, and then I've also been working simultaneously in my practice on mapping and maps. And I'm very fascinated with maps. I am directionally challenged, so I don't know the difference between my left and my right, but I love maps. And I love them because of just how they look. So I started thinking airport, I started looking at airports, and then suddenly I saw the map of airports, and in my head I deleted all the lines that were there, and just the form looked just fabulous, because they started looking like creatures and machines and stuff like that. So the fun part I have with this work is always asking my friends, so what do you think it is? And invariably 9 out of 10 people will say, oh, it's a machine, it's a gun, it's a futuristic thing, it's a bird. So I just love that, because that's exactly what I see in them. The people who don't see that are architects, and they're very boring because they see it as layouts. I'm like, how do you see it as a layout? So that's how the thing actually eventually emerged. And there were lots of restrictions. We also had, I was also thinking about things like the material comes in a 6x8 sheet. So looking at that, then figuring out my mapping within that. And conceptually, it basically is talking about the airport layouts, Bangalore being the central one, and repeats itself on both. That stays in stainless steel. Everything else is in cotton steel and mild steel. Cotton steel has that rust formation on it, so it's very alive. And those were some of the things we used, and it's set on a runway line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. Which Yamini sent me lots of pictures, and I drooled over those images of runways.
Yeah, that was nice. So, Talur, again, I'll start with you. I remember you coming. I want to talk about material. How do you deal? Because I'll tell you, when a lot of friends and family, when they know that I'm fretting about something, or there's a big installation that's to go, they're very interested in the material of it. So how was this made? You know, what goes into the process of it? How do you install things? Do you want to talk about that? Because Talur came again with this lovely 3D printed
Yeah, the model.
the model, which looked exactly like that, and that process was very interesting. So if you could just take us through the material. I know we had a session on material, but these are different works, different materials, and the context is very different about it. So if you could just...
In generally, the idea demands some kind of a shape or a size or a something. It's not, it's an airport, you have to make a big sculpture. It's not about that. It's about the idea. Once the idea comes, that idea carries a shape, a form, and the material too. So now known material, unknown material. Like, certain material you are familiar with, you worked earlier, so you start working, ancient sculptures and all you take, Chola bronze and all, then you start thinking, in a scale. So I think material has certain quality of making it bigger, not just because of a structural reason, not just because of the demand of the situation. So it demands So I mean, for a long time, whenever I used to travel in a temple, the Tamil Nadu temple trip is amazing. So I used to photogrammetry them. Photogrammetry is a technology. Earlier session, three photographers, they talked about stitching a photography. So something similarly, they stitch like this, I stitch like this, the 360 degree. So from there, I kind of, I had, I have a lot of data in my, studio where whenever I feel the form is interesting or the structure is interesting, I try to kind of do this photogrammetry. It's my sketchbook almost, like a sketchbook. From that, when I got this chance, I thought, oh, I mean, the GoPro is also Vimana. Oh, how it goes. And I kind of started composing. So I don't want to go towards a very religious or the moment you see the form, people start thinking in that direction, right? So how to kind of avoid that? So, somewhere the form looks like a Heidenberg, the balloon.
Yeah.
It's any architecture, geometrically, they are very stable, they are very, firm. So the form on the top, it's a little tilted. It is not, the proper. It's like somewhere, the inspiration is, I can say, the Heidenberg, the balloons, not the report. So, yeah, so it's a, that's how it kind of, started. Then I translated that, the form into styrofoam by using CNC milling technology. So over there, I found out very interesting, material is a styrofoam. So I specifically visited some styrofoam companies where they make a different size of styrofoam balls, so that I can use as a texture of the surface of the temple, so that I can age the temple.
That's an interesting comment that we always get in the terminal. How does that corrosion happen, or did it happen after it got put? Is somebody's concern and worry, or somebody who's fascinated by the textural quality of it?
It's all about deliberation. So very, very important that, when you are making something, what result you have to get. So when you start thinking about it, then you start looking at the material. And sometimes it's also very interesting that certain signal material gives you that it's going to look like owned out or aged. And suddenly, as you explore more, it start also looking at something else. You go more and more, in a detail. If you see, it's almost like a, sandblasted somewhere extraterritorial, object. it doesn't have a single reading. So texture-wise, material-wise, all it gives, step by step, as you involve, it will start giving you more and more information.
Okay, that's right. So, which actually, I'm loving it. Like one question and one person talks leads me into the second one so beautifully. Latika ji, I'm coming to you.
Mixing up is best. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when I visited your studio and you showed me all these lovely marble maquettes that you had. And my question to you was that there's always this thing, you make a maquette, and the maquette that I got from Talur was a 3D printed one. But the maquettes that you had made were like the old school, proper, in fact, we're going to get the maquettes also inside the terminal because they're that beautiful. And because they works in themselves completely. How does that process of translation happen? Or does this work also have a maquette? Or what is that? That's always an interesting question that people have, saying that how does it happen? On paper, people understand that, okay, you've made a sketch and then it goes on to a painting. But in a sculpture, there are different processes. Like what Talur does is casting. So he had styrofoam and then you go to bronze casting. But you work with the material directly. I think when Nagraj was talking about, Santosh was talking about it, saying that there's an additive and the subtractive process. So you work with like removing it. Does it become mechanical? These are questions that are always interesting. So if you could just...
Yeah. Now, what I want people also to know that I do more bronze casting than stone carvings. So from I went into this more quantity of marble carving after I did that 30 feet work. That was in 2016. I had done it earlier because we always had much stone at home because my husband Balbir Singh only did large stone sculptures, but I was more into bronze. But here, I did this work after I did the 30 feet work. And there I felt that I was not content with the total whiteness. I had to try out the color part. And of course, I'm not a maths person, but it happens that when I'm doing a work like this, there's a lot of mathematics has to be done, exact calculations and the weight. Now, which piece will take how much weight? So all that has to be worked up. But otherwise, I'm not a maquette person. I see a work and I see a marble and I directly know where I want to start in the stone. And it just goes on because, as I said, I'm a nature lover. That means my work is more organic and less calculations. But in that big work, because it was a commission work, so we had to do a maquette to show to the committee for doing the large work. And here I must make a complaint against you that that you gave a challenge to everybody and not me. I wish you had come to me, and if you had said you wanted to height of 150 feet or 300 feet, I would have been happy. And I would have done it.
There's always a place and a time, and I think that's where it comes in. And while we may not give you 150 feet, we don't have 150 feet. I think we've given you 5 sculptures within that space. It's your sculpture garden. So when you're traveling, and if you have a bus gate departure domestic, you must step outside and you will see 5 sculptures by Latika ji sitting in the garden all by itself amongst the trees. I think which is a very special thing.
Yeah. Thank you. I really thank you for that.
Yeah.
And as Yamini ji said that she visited my studio. Now, I do all my works outdoor, except for the terracotta or the papier-mâché or the ceramics. Uh, so I have very strong pedestals, large ones, and the experience of working under trees, it just gives me new feelings to try out in marble. Like you said, whether you have maquettes or no, but all my trees are my maquettes, and they're there all the time.
That's lovely.
Yeah, and I have on my land snakes and birds and crows and monitor lizards, and they're all living there. So they also, sometimes run around me, and I suddenly see kya hua. So the team of mongoose running. So especially ants and so on, so on. So everything, because I live alone, and just 2 village workers come and help me out making clay and so on. But stone, on a very large scale, I had to get a team of workers. But here I would specifically want to very proudly say that I'm a sculptor. I'm a trained sculptor, and I had a lot of, this is going out of the agenda maybe, but I'm a trained sculptor, and I had a lot of opposition to my taking to sculpture right from my second year of college, when my head said that Indian girls can't do sculpture and we will not let you take sculpture. And the Vice Chancellor gives me admission to start sculpture. So from the very beginning, there was, after my pieces are fired, the boys who go at 4 o'clock and take out my works and break them. And so, but as I said, it was all blessing in disguise, because if they break 5 works, I make 20 more. And the next time I went 3 o'clock at night, I literally, with my friend in medical college who was allowed to go outside the gate, we were in a team in the first year college. It was quite brave to go at 3 o'clock at night. We went and I took out everybody's works, kept them nicely, and I told them that I came before you. I could have broken everything of everybody, but I didn't. So we have to have a positive approach to each other if you have to learn. But it never happened. I think till now also there has been a resentment against me. Maybe because I was working much more. I would stay at MS University College whole nights. They had to change the rule for me. I was sleeping on newspaper, working whole night, and always did the largest quantity of works. Whether it was my graduation or my post-graduation, even the Slade School of Art, London, the head of the department, for the first time in the history of London University, they had to open the studio for me whole night.
So
I did
you've been a pathbreaker
drawing.
all throughout. I think that's wonderful and inspirational for a lot of us over here. So thank you so much for that. So Prakriti, I want to come to your most favorite topic and my favorite topic, which was the installation of the scale work. Can we, no, it's an experience. I think what most of us, I can't say most of us, most of you, sorry, may not realize that for all the installations that you see there, the amount of planning that is required, and again, we can plan as much as you want, but the other forces around you may not support. I also have Krishnaraj sitting there and looking very, like nodding and saying yes, because he went through the same kind of trials about it. But Prakriti, if you could just, and be frank about it. Like okay. Latika ji said, I have a complaint, you can also go ahead. Oh. It's a free-for-all forum over here now.
Okay, here goes, guys. I think I have a bald patch somewhere at the back of my head that says installation process Navraspur. Right here somewhere. Having said that, it was a due process. It's the nature of the work. It's the site. It's lots of trial and error. It's not something we've done before, and you can't do it before because it's site specific, right? So nobody really is to know what it's actually going to take. And just to keep going, and I think, of course, there were I think there were times when that process took everything out of me. I felt every emotion that I have depicted there during that installing process. But, I must say there was a very supportive installing team from BIAL. In particular, there was this young man, his name was Love Kush. I don't know if he's still there. And I know all the names of all the lifts: spider lift, dinkley lift, scissor lift, bucket lift, you name it. And we tried them all. When I say all, we tried them all for my installation. We even came to a stage one day when I was crying at 2 in the morning. Yamini was available very kindly to me on the phone. Bhargavi was available with me through the process. And I was just about giving up because they were saying that we now needed to put up scaffolding to install. And we're talking about an active airport. We're talking about permits. We're talking about hazards. We also broke some rules, which I won't talk about now. But no. But we got it up finally. And on the final day, I was actually there on my own and I engaged with my work. I spent some incredible time with it. And we started at 11 in the night and we were done by 5 a.m. And, it was a foggy Bangalore morning and it was like, Hindi mein bolu? Jaise
Bilkul.
Kainat, it comes in to embrace you. There was a white fog, me and my work. And I thought that was one of the most special moments of that installing process.
So, if you would like to know, I think Tallur went through the same thing, but it went only in one night. So it started at 10 and ended at 5 in the morning because being an airport, that's the only time you get. But again, it involved, I think, all the artists who worked and who had, things which were not pedestal mounted, even those had some issues. Anything else? They became familiar, whether they wanted or not, with machinery names, what the machinery is capable of, and what it means to work within a space of an airport. Which brings me to Madhvi. I think while they have hours, nights, and days, Madhvi has a different story to tell. And it's a very interesting story, please.
I had weeks and months.
4 months, how could you?
Yeah.
I must say that's a very positive thing because it took 4 months to get her work up. And if she thinks it was weeks, I think that's brilliant.
No, it was months. And it was each of the panels is made up of 25 sections. And on that is one has 9 metal parts, the other one has 10 metal parts. And then there are coordinates. So each of those metal parts has a coordinate because it's a coordinate of the airport. So while I did have the metal parts and the coordinates organized on the boards when they came, getting the boards together seamlessly, together from on one frame onto another frame that was on the back, there was just multiple issues that were way beyond any of our controls, and it had to do with the engineering staff at BIAL, and we discovered that they don't think women know what they are talking about.
Let's not go that route.
But anyway, it resulted in multiple times of redoing, and that happened earlier in fabrication as well. While I was working on putting it all together, because I could not see it till it came together on site. So I had assembled it on a very, very large factory floor, and then I had to kind of literally climb up somewhere to be able to see the whole thing, but it was on the floor, so there's no way to see what it was going to look like vertically. So lots of issues that had come up at that point as well, and as I think Krishnaraj said, that it was all about problem solving. And it was a daily problem solving that I had prior to it coming here, and then we had daily problem solving here before it actually got up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
I have a question. To break the pattern so that you can ask in between and then same issues or something. So it's regarding the architecture and it's a question for Yamini.
last
So-
question only. We've gone 50 minutes, so please come on.
Okay, it's a architecture and the artworks. So we never met architect. We don't know what is the concept. What is the idea behind. So it's already he designs lot of things. It's a noisy. If you want to, it's just for a kind of a discussion, thinking of future. If you want to do how it has to work or something. So artist always, I feel, if we have an interaction with the architect, then there is a lot of other problems easily get solved. Otherwise, like how really, when you have an idea, the concept, architectural concept, we don't know. Architectural, most of the time in case of buildings, it's always, the architects from cold country. So they are here. Or, if we are saying it's only the Indian architects or something, you see Corbusier or you see Louis Kahn or, the echoes of so many things. So somewhere, in the first step itself, concept is lost its way. So in a second stage, when you ask artists to kind of solve that problem, it becomes more complicated. So my I'm curious. How do you think? I may be wrong, Oscar.
No, so I think it's a very pertinent question. I know we've run out of time very badly. I'm just going to sum it up like a very much bird's eye perspective. We're not second. I take art as us together. Art does not come at the second stage. Art comes when everything is done. And that's how most of us would have experienced it. And that is true whether it is a private space or whether it's a public space. Because art by self is seen as something that is decorative and part of an extension of design. And the challenge for me was to break that thing, saying that it's not just an extension of design, but it is something else and it needs a space of its own. For that sensibility to come in, I think it starts by having School of Architecture who understand art, and it then goes into urban planning, then it goes into sensitization of engineers and a whole lot of things. So it's a much larger question that needs to be addressed. But having said that, it's also about how you wiggle and you push your way in and make that space. And I think that's what I've had fantastic support, who allowed for this kind of wiggle space to happen. The original architect's plan had 2 locations for art in the check-in hall. From that, we've come to 60 artworks. I think we managed to do something right. So, thank you for your patience and sitting so patiently while I went on and on. And here I was thinking that I would have somebody telling me that I'm done at 40 minutes, but that didn't happen. But I'm sure you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.